Welcome. You're tuned into Life is a Sacred Journey. Every week, we bring a new perspective to aging and caregiving. Here is your host, Michelle Pope.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you in the virtual neighborhood of Life is a Sacred Journey. I am so happy that you've joined us around the fireplace or around your kitchen table or in your backyard, wherever you may be. It is morning here in California, and we are visited this morning by my new BFF, a new member of the Circle of Life of Michelle Pope. Magda Kaczmarska is her name, and we're going to be talking about movement and creativity and all of that. So I welcome you to the virtual neighborhood of Life is a Sacred Journey, and just thank you for coming this morning or mid-morning in where you are. Like, it's New York, right?
It's New York, and it is 11 a.m. But we're in the world right now, so wherever you are, welcome. And Michelle, oh my goodness, my heart goes out to you. I am so honored to be joining you.
Oh,
and your community. This is such a gift.
Well, I want a shout out to my dear friend, Chris Bravo, for bringing us together. Chris Bravo, we love you.
Yes, big hug to my business partner and my colleague, my friend.
So he is a great human being and somebody who walks this planet with love, grace, and dignity and respect for all. So we're just very thankful that he is in our life. And so he brought us together, which is wonderful.
He connected us.
And then to all of those folks in Greenville, California, and I know Magda will join me in this, is, fire in California has been so hard on us the last 3, 4, 5, whatever it is, years that we've been experiencing this in this way. And now there are many of you who have lost your homes, and you're whirling out of that space of losing your connection, your memories. Know that if you're physically making it through this time, you will make more memories and that you will have more moments of joy. I'm not negating what you're going through right now because I know it's hard to lose, but you're alive. And in the living, you're going to be able to rebuild something even more magnificent than what you have lost. We send our love to you from Life is a Sacred Journey, as well as Fixing My Shirt. And we also just say peace and blessings to you in this time. And we are praying for rain just to drench this state so that we can get rid of these fires, because you know how I love the trees. All of you who know me know the tree is my mantra. The tree is my totem, and we have to save the trees. And then, of course, the lives, the nature, and all the people. So let's lift up the thought of rain because we need it. The East Coast has been getting it, so we need it over here. All right.
And then get your way. I don't know if it goes that way. I'm not a climate expert, but
nor am I. But something has to give here. We're really been experiencing so much loss, and for so many people, older people or elders who have invested their whole lives in their homes, now they're misplaced. And so, what happens when that happens? Let's become a community and surround those individuals. You don't have to live in Greenville to be in a community. You are in the community of the human spirit. So help somebody. Send them a note. Even if you have no money, you can 51 cents, you can send a note to Greenville. It'll get to somebody. Somebody will open it and say, wow, thank you. So always never put barriers between being kind. Just do it. Even if it sounds like the most ridiculous thing to do. Remember when you used to write to Santa Claus? Okay, I'm going to say no more. Just send the thought out. Send it out. Something good might happen. Okay? All right. I'm going to start our conversation this morning. Thank all of you. Write in the chat right now on Facebook. I know you've joined us again. Thank you. Hit the share button, all of that. But I want you to write in the chat. I'm just going to steal this from my dear guest this morning. When was the last time you danced? Okay. Was it at a party? Was it at a wedding? Did you get up this morning and dance? I always dance. I dance every morning that I get up. I dance all the way to the bathroom. So, and because I got to get there fast and I want to make it fun. So dance, right? So write in the chat. When was the last time you danced? Was it with someone or were you by yourself? Okay, so put that in the chat and I'll lift those up as we go through this conversation. And again, welcome to Life is a Sacred Journey. You are amazing, and we are so thankful that you joined us here this morning. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my wonderful guest. Her bio is amazingly huge. It's one of those things where you look at it and you say, oh man, am I going to really do justice to honoring this work, this breadth of work that this person has invested in spiritually and all other ways? But I'm going to pick up some points and then I'm going to invite you to reach out. And Magda will tell you how to get a hold of her, go to her website, all of those things. So reach out and do some more homework after today so that you know more about this beautiful person that is walking the planet and trying to make a difference in the world for everybody, not just our elders, but everybody. Okay, so I'm gonna look down for a minute, but I know you're all right. Magda Kaczmarska is a dance artist, master teacher, and creative aging and brain health advocate based out of New York City. Magda was born in Poland, but grew up in Southwestern United States, where she received her MFA in dance performance and choreography. And her BS, and this is what I thought was interesting, biochemistry and molecular biophysics from the University of Arizona. Combine the two if you can in your head, okay? That is so amazing. She spent 10 years working in neuropharmacology research and 18 years in intergenerational community-based education settings in dance and creative expression for persons of all abilities. And all of you know how much I have a heart for the intergenerational connection, because I think it's the human connection. I don't know why we have to title stuff. It's about all of us coming together at every age, whatever, intergenerational, because that works for us, right? Intergenerational community-based. And as a teaching artist, Magda has devoted her career to using transformative power. And I've been stalking her all week and watching her videos and interviews and all of that. And I love the two words together, transformative power, because it means power, embracing who you are, but then transforming it in all kinds of ways, in movement and expression, song, dance, silence, meditation. All of that is transformative, and you can bring them all together. And this is what I've seen her do in some of the videos that I have watched thus far. Definitely has a heart for diverse communities and working again with the Alzheimer's Association and the OWL and Panther program. She expanded her mind on working with intergenerational refugees. And that is also, as you all know, near and dear to my heart. How do we work in these different places of pain and hurt and bring the type of transformative work there, ministries there? And then has been a part of a program called Storytelling in Action. So I'm going to ask her to talk a little bit about that, because that talks about taking creative movement and narrative for people living with dementia. It's pretty much like a thing we do here at ACEB called Story Time. And everybody tells a part of a story. They add to the story, and then it becomes everybody's story instead of just one person's narrative. And so it's just a very beautiful thing to see. So Magda is just devoted to working in the community, being intentional, making connections worldwide. I just recently watched her do a training with a group of citizens from all over the universe, primarily my brothers and sisters in Africa. And I was just like, wow, this is so amazing. Movement, sound, drums, all of this. And the thing that I want to tell you now, and again, please go back and review her bio in depth so that you know more. But she is an Atlantic Fellow for Equity in Brain Health at GBHI, where she is working to design and expand access to creative aging programs that support brain health across the lifespan. So I'm going to do something that I haven't done before because I'm feeling it this morning. All right, here we go. Here we go. All right, Felicia, I did it. And you were my inspiration, my dear friend Magda. Thank you so much for coming to Life is a Sacred Journey. And here at ASAB, we're in adult day healthcare and 30-something years old. I've been here 24 years. And one of the things that I learned very early on is that music, movement, art really resonates beyond cognition. That level of cognition that we measure when we're in academia and when we're, navigating different spaces. In a program like Alzheimer's Services, we really embrace the arts because that's the place where there is no right or wrong. Where a person can truly express what they see, smell, hear, touch, sensory, and then regurgitate it back in movement, paint, music, poetry. So as you're looking, and you've been doing this for a minute, tell us what inspired you, first of all, to take this trajectory, and then what continues to inspire you to see these new ideas. And they're really not. This is the one thing I want to say to everybody, and I know you know this already. These are indigenous human realities that cultures and that we as humans manifested before we came into this new world of ours where we started being infused into. So I just want to share that with you, that dance, music and song and word and dance and sound was the way that people communicated. And now we have such large, wonderful vocabularies, we forget that sometimes movement, song, poetry, all of these things can communicate emotion, feelings, and create connection. So will you share your story with us and then tie those kind of things together from your experience with the Life is a Sacred Journey audience? And again, I hope you see the love in my eyes, that I'm so excited that you're here. I really am.
Michelle, I mean, I just want to begin by saying I'm so honored and so touched to be here with you. It's such a moving opportunity. And oh my goodness, you've shared so many wonderful things. When I think back, I just want to, just before I tell my story, I just want to honor what you just said. That movement and music are two of the most inherent aspects of our humanity, and that come most naturally to us, even in utero. This is just at that and sharing that as individuals and as communities, we're inherently social creatures. I want to just honor that and reflect that back to you, and for our audience as well, to reflect on that, for yourself.
Yes.
How has music and dance inspired you when you think across your own life course? But as far as my life story, I'm an immigrant, and I'm from Poland originally, and I'm 38. So when I was born, I was in Poland, still under communism, and I was raised by my grandmother. And she was a woman that had a chronic heart condition. She was on a pension. She was on disability, and she raised me. And I think that has been a fundamental influence for me. I've devoted most of my career working with older adults and people living with dementia. And I can tell you that every single individual that I have had the privilege of working with, I channel that love that she and that passion that she instilled in me. And it's a way of, for me, I feel, of giving back and knowing that that individual is somebody else. They love somebody else as much as I loved her, and somebody loves them as much as I love her. And she passed, 2 years ago. Almost 2 years ago, right before the pandemic. And so now even more so, I feel I'm feeling like I'm carrying that mantle But when I moved to the United States at 8 years of age, I moved to the Southwest of the United States into the Sonoran Desert.
Yeah.
And that's, that really is where my formation started, right? So I have this really interesting background of both the sciences and the arts. And a lot of people feel like they're kind of contrary, but in fact, they're not. And I feel incredibly, again, privileged that my work allows me, and my interests allow me to kind of look at both of these aspects, right? Because when we look at creativity and when we look at brain health, we can look at the structural and functional aspects of that, right? The science and how, the kind of empirical ways that we can look at that. And then we can look at the social justice and the humanity and the creative aesthetic aspect of that and what that means for us, spiritual aspects of that, what that means for us as individuals and societies. And so my work is really, I feel so privileged that I get to kind of have my hands in both parts of that. And but this path for me started in Arizona. I was working in research, studying bone cancer, actually, and bone cancer pain. So it was neuropharmacology and novel, like preclinical research. And at the same time, I, with a colleague of mine, we had a nonprofit that was offering creative engagement programs for people in the community, people with Parkinson's disease. I had the incredible privilege of training with the Dance for PD program at Mark Morris a dance group, and bringing that program to Tucson, Arizona, where I was living. But it was actually one of those activities, after one of those activities that we had for the community, that I was compelled to move into the path that I am now on and has shaped this career now.
Yeah.
And that was, we had a program for that was in partnership with the Tucson Museum of Art for people that were living with, it was through the Alzheimer's Association, but people living with dementia.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually in a grocery store one day, and you may have heard this story, but I ran into one of this woman, and at first I didn't recognize her, but it turned out that she was the wife and the care partner for one of the participants in that class. And she was so excited to see me because she said, my husband has Alzheimer's, and after your class, and it wasn't even that long of a class, it was maybe 45 minutes, an hour, right? Yeah. After that class, we had a conversation for the first time in months. And that, that gives me chills. That was so impactful for her, but for me, it added to so many other experiences I had witnessed and stories that people had honored me by sharing, and of how engaging in dance had not only supported their well-being, but was also affecting their health. Mm-hmm. And I felt the need, I wanted to know what this was, and I felt the need to devote myself and my career to exploring all of the different aspects of this, and then more importantly, facilitating it.
Yes.
So I went back to school. I got my MFA in dance to kind of to balance out my experience.
Yes.
I had the incredible joy of going to the University of Arizona School of Dance. It's a beautiful program. It's like a family. They still are my family. A big shout out to all of you. And then I moved to New York. I see it now as like a residency for myself. This is where I got the toolkits to really become an agent of this work. I had the incredible honor of working with Dances for a Variable Population. It's a company based in New York that was founded by Naomi Goldberg-Haas. And they do phenomenal work. And I had the incredible privilege through that company to work with hundreds of older adults in the community all over New York. And that really helped me hone my toolkit. And then now in this last year, as you mentioned, I was honored and invited to join the Atlantic Fellows for Equity and Brain Health. And so now, I've gone full circle to connecting the sciences and the arts, and really am dedicating now my career to using creative expression to support brain health. And especially, we mentioned my friend Chris Bravo and our program Storytelling in Action. We're really using this, I really see it as a form of social justice. We're using creative expression as a way to facilitate meaningful community and expression for all people living with dementia. Mm-hmm. And it's an honor, and I can only, we're just in the beginning of our journey, but we already have had the joy of seeing what you asked me what sustains me.
Yes.
What sustains me is going into a space and seeing the connection of, a care partner and their loved one who's living with dementia, and the incredible power of creativity that they have co-opted to grow.
Yes.
To grow and expand and transform their relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and to hear reflected from an individual who's living with dementia of how much welcome they receive in our space, and how much joy they receive, and how much excitement they have. And that gives me chills, because I feel like, oh well, what have we have we forgotten these people? Have we allowed ourselves to forget that there are people who are hungry for connection, that are hungry for meaningful expression, that are hungry for being seen and to be able to see others and to continue to grow in community? And I also wanted to reflect back something, Chris and I had an incredible joy of connecting with Jennifer Carson and Casey Ackland at University of Nevada, Reno, and they came into one of our storytelling in action classes recently. And the thing that really struck me from their feedback was that they loved that for the entire hour that we were together, dementia wasn't mentioned once.
Right.
And I think that that's something that I think is so important.
Me too.
That, when we're living with the chronic illness of dementia, that's a progressive illness, we want to remember that that is just an aspect of somebody's identity. It's something that they're living with, but it doesn't define everything about them. And that it's so important to reflect that relationality, that humanity, that citizenship. I'm using words of Pia Contos here. That is so important for community.
Mm-hmm.
That
and for a person to feel a part of that community and to be seen, like you said, in a way where they're contributing their who they are. That I'm always looking at when I looked at the conversation you were having. I can't remember the person that was interviewing you, but the video of the ballerina in the wheelchair, when I first saw that on YouTube, I cried because it reminded me that people are so alive, and that we look at this. The eyes are a wonderful sensory thing, but when we look at people, when we only see frailness or the wheelchair and disability, and to see her make those incredible, she did every movement of Swan Lake from her chair. And you could tell that she had such a love for dance, that it, no matter how, I don't even know what her mini mental score was, or her MOCA, but at the end of the day, I know it was in the single digits because I've been doing this for 24 years. But she remembered her body and all of that, remembered that the minute the music. Can you talk about that memory of that? Because that's a profound moment. Any of you who have not seen it, look it up on YouTube. It's still around, or you can go back to my Facebook, because I shared it 50 trillion times, because it was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. Can you explain what happened there?
Yeah, I mean, the video that you're referencing is of a woman, Maria Gonzalez. She was a ballerina, prima ballerina with New York City Ballet in the 60s. And in her later years, she was living with dementia. I'm not sure whether it was Alzheimer's, but the video that you're referencing, this group brings music to people living with dementia. So this video really speaks to that power of music and kinesthetic memory of movement, in as something that is one of the longest kind of retained memories. And what in that video, what happens is they play Odette, who's the white the swan, and she dances the entire. She remembers and the entire choreography, down to what's happening with the feet, and she mentioned like, and that is it's powerful. And I mean, for her, she's recalling her kinesthetic memory because she was a dancer and she had known this.
Yes.
But this happens for all of us, and it happens for many people living with dementia, this connection between music. And there's researchers are looking to understand this. And I think there's still a lot more that we don't understand, but we do see that this connection to music and dance is retained. And it's powerful. But the beauty of being part of this Atlantic Fellows for Equity and Brain Health, I've had the opportunity to interact with researchers and scientists who are experts in this field. And Dr. Bruce Miller, who's the director of the Memory and Aging Center,
I know him very well.
Yeah, he talks about this all the time, and he works with frontotemporal dementia. And he, what I love about the way he speaks about this is that he talks about how, dementia transforms our brain, right? But in the case of, for instance, in frontotemporal dementia, a lot of people, might have changes in their emotions and in their in language, but they become incredibly voracious painters and creative. That level of creativity gets heightened. And so I'm not to undermine that dementia is a progressive illness, and it is very difficult in many ways. But I also love how he highlights how this is actually an element that really adds a whole new perspective of how we think about the brain.
Yes.
And, this kind of like neurodiversity in a sense, of how, what one part of the brain might be in a deficit, but another part of the brain is in strength. And, I see this in our storytelling and action classes, where we have a group of people where one person feels like they communicate more with sound and tones and facial expressions, and others feel really comfortable speaking and proclaiming poetry and stories and explanations, and others feel very comfortable with expressing in movement. And the whole group kind of comes and works together to create a beautiful story in action that really takes all of the aspects of the individuals in that space, in the space that we are sharing together, to highlight a theme, to create a story in action through movement and sound that reflects us in that moment. And I feel like that, that to me feels like a different way of looking at storytelling, but it feels very human. And it feels very authentic and very tangible.
Yes.
Very accessible.
Yes. And it gives the person in the because there's some folks in our programs that have to be in constant movement. And so those individuals then don't feel like they're sitting in a class, that they can't keep in movement. They don't feel like, why? Well, nobody else is. And so I love that. That resonates with me because of that. So everybody gets the freedom to be who they are in that space, but also be a part of the greater story. That's wonderful.
But that to me, I mean, in this space, I think, I want us to change the thinking of how we think about dementia as only a deficit.
Right. Right.
And to amplify humanity.
Exactly. And what we need to do and how we need to do it. And I'm looking to see here what people, Chris Bravo says, it's his pleasure to have put us together.
Chris.
I know the one question somebody has here is it classes, or is it something? Should it be more formalized classes to get an elder person to move, or is it just enough to be, because some caregivers think that, we need a formalized class, but are there other ways to get your loved one up and moving and dancing with you in a way that, keeps you both happy and keeps you both.
Oh my goodness. I'm so glad that you're asking that question. Thank you, whoever asked that. I mean, obviously a class is great in its own way, right? You have a program, there's a structure, there's a thought process that went into this, and there's a facilitator who is supporting a connection between multiple people, right? So obviously, yes, there's a strength for that. But the beauty of creativity and art is that we all are creative. You all have access to that. I want to share an experience I had going into the Dementia Action Alliance. They have these events called Dementia Conversations, and I was so honored by Laura Scherer to come into one of these and talk about brain health and creativity. And I gave a little talk, and we did a little bit of movement together, and then we had a conversation. And one person was very very open and shared, and that they like to put on music and play and move to what they hear.
Mm-hmm.
And that is dance.
Yeah.
That's dance, my friend. That is dance. And there's a lot of joy in being able to allow somebody else to dictate and to share, choreography that you can learn. There's things, that there's so many aspects to dance, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of joy in co-creating, which, we, in storytelling and action, we do both of those things. We learn choreography that somebody either you follow or that we learn and we get to repeat. But then we also co-create where each person adds. And then, there's just free flow improvisation, which we also use in storytelling and action. But that's what you are doing when you put on a piece of music and you listen, and something that's got a beat is going to get you moving in one way. Something that's got like a beautiful violin is going to get you moving in another way. And that, that is, you can totally do that. And I'd be actually really curious to see, if you pick two different songs and play them in your house, 30 seconds of this and see how you respond. And then 30 seconds of another and see how you respond.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's already a wonderful way to connect and to learn something new. And you might be surprised at what you create together.
Oh,
you don't need an MFA to dance.
And during the pandemic and shelter in place where we were for so long, that was one of the key advices that we shared with some of our families. We just said, get up and dance. And if you really do need direction, there's so many videos on YouTube that are totally free that you can follow. But I love the free flowing movement, Shining Star by Earth, Wind and Fire. Everybody out there, have Alexa or somebody play that for you midday tomorrow morning with your loved one, and just get up and move. And you'll move. You won't have a choice. And it doesn't matter what it looks like. When I was young, I loved Baryshnikov. Okay. So I came into my young girlhood.
Who doesn't love Baryshnikov?
Right. Okay. And Baryshnikov and Gregory Hines were in a movie, and I had a crush on them both. I can't remember.
White Knights. I think
there it is.
Knights,
yes,
isn't
yes,
it? Yes.
Oh my gosh. So I had a crush on both of them. Okay. So, I've always been an equal opportunity lover. So, and I looked at that movie and realized it was more, the movie didn't do well. Yeah, whatever. But I loved it. It's a cult movie. I love it. I own it actually. And what I loved about it is it showed two different people, in this particular case, a Russian and an American, brought together in a human crisis, a human situation. But dance
was the common language. I'm sorry, Michelle.
No, my friend, my sister. No. We're kindreds. Was the common thing. What if they didn't even have language? When I went to Cuba, everybody knows I speak no language. I speak a little Boston accent, a little New York accent, and then I don't know if I've ever adopted California's accent because it's a singing. The Californians sing, and they go, "Good morning." It's like
that's
that.
beautiful.
We're more like, "Good morning." It's.
I'm gonna listen for that.
Yeah,
now,
listen
Michelle.
for it. They have a and I think it's
a little
crazy
I like
days
that.
of summer, the Beach Boys and all of that. Beautiful. I mean, I'm a Californian now.
California dreaming.
Yes,
Mamas and the papas.
That's kind of skateboard, surfing kind of movement. So the sound that resonates from somebody who was truly born and raised here, you can tell the difference. It's a beautiful, I love it. But what if there was no language? You know, when we were doing sheltering in place at my church, I did a little ASL, sign language, and I realized even the way we, because there were certain things that I learned that looked almost the same, but if you did it a certain way, it turned it to a negative.
Oh.
And I thought, you can see how dance and movement can also help resonate feelings that they may be pent up, feelings that you may be feeling and able to express by watching a movement. I mean, am I making sense? Is this true, or am I pulling this out?
This is totally true. I mean, this is, I am very pleased and honored to have friends who work in therapy and in mental health. And this is not my expertise, but what I understand from this work is, you know, that you can approach mental health from a top down, you know, and then you can approach mental health from a bottom up.
Yeah.
And I think especially, you know, I have colleagues who work in very, you know, intense addiction and trauma. When you're thinking with something like PTSD, from my understanding, parts of your brain that actually allow you to access, you know, being able to verbally kind of logically process an event, get you know, knocked off.
Yes.
So being able to access something through movement allows you to enter into that in a completely different way. But there's also a certain level, you know, my friend advocates for kind of mental health first aid of like how to, you know, when we're working with bodies, and we all are, we all navigate this world in our bodies, being able to understand that, you know, our bodies hold emotions, our bodies, you know, feelings are a natural part of our existence, and being able to tap into them is really important. You know, you said something earlier when we were talking about the power, the common language of movement and dance. You know, I was reflecting on the fact that like only like 7% of our communication happens through language, and like 93% of it happens with tone, with facial expression, with gesture, with movement. Right? And that like that to me, it feels like, oh, okay, well, there's something.
Why aren't we doing more of it?
Well, I mean, I'll share with you. I do spend most of my time working with older adults and people living with dementia. But over the course of this pandemic, I was invited by several friends to work with other groups, and I actually was invited to by a colleague of mine, Mazarin Reyes, who works in supporting nonprofits that are run by women, and specifically women of color. And she had a conference of all, you know, for all people who identify as women who work in nonprofit. And she invited me along with a couple colleagues to start the conference. So I led some movement. And these are all people in what we call middle age, whatever that means, right? And, you know, but active professionals. And I led them through a series of creative movement exercises, similar to what we do in storytelling and action. But you know, kind of gluing together a series of different explorations, and then putting together kind of a dance, a story in action that really reflected our theme for that day, and which was, you know, doing this work, right? It's onerous, right? And I mean, first of all, I was struck with how, when given permission, how willingly and how much joy people get out of having permission to play. And to just have fun. And to be curious.
Permission to play.
Permission to play when given a container for it. And then secondly, I heard from so many of them of how emotional they got, you know, of how this did, like you just mentioned, how this brought up, you know, especially during the pandemic, of being, you know, locked in lockdown, being in spaces, you know, wanting and being so hungry for that connection with others. And I feel, you know, this pandemic, if there is a silver lining. It has helped expand empathy
Yeah.
to those of us who are able-bodied, who are privileged and having luxury and freedom to exit our homes regularly and to interact, on a day-to-day, with hundreds of people or even 50 people or even 10 people and have those interactions. There have always been people who, even before the pandemic and after that, now that we're entering back out into the world, who are stuck at home, or either because they're living in a rural area, or because of mobility, or because of financial situations, or because if they're living with dementia, they have an irregular care, and so their care partner is working. And so they don't have the luxury to be able to be transported to a place, or maybe there isn't a place that's close to them where they can go for activity and social connection. And not to mention the fact that what I've learned is that for certain people living with dementia, leaving home can be incredibly anxiety inducing. So not only is it stressful for the person who's providing and the care partner, but also for the person living with dementia to leave home, be transported, go to a location, go through an activity, and only at the end of the activity finally start to feel better and feel like, oh, I'm getting into this, and then have to get back up, be uprooted, and go back home again. So it's like the whole day is shot. Right. So, but this pandemic, I think, not only has it heightened the inequities that exist in our society, and the inequities to access to digital access to technology, but and all sorts of other resources, but also has heightened our empathy to what the lived experiences for many people, and what the lived experience will continue to be for many people. So I feel very honored and excited that more of us are looking and thinking about this, and thinking about creating virtual engagements, and thinking about, rather than thinking about, oh, well, this person doesn't have access, which we know it's deplorable how much, even in the United States, how many people do not have access to technology, and many disproportionately are people of color. Or people living with disabilities. Or, I don't know if anybody has actually done the statistics for people living with dementia, but I imagine that is also really high. That's really so. So we're looking at that, but that is not their problem. That is our problem. We failed them, right? So it is our problem to think about, how can we expand digital equity? How can we expand universal Wi-Fi? How can we ensure that people have access to technology and that they know how to use technology? Because in today's day and age, that is a human right. It means that you have access to healthcare. It means that you have access to resources, to financial security, and to connection. Meaningful social connection. That's right. I was reading an article actually recently that talks about how, for people who are older adults who are living at home, and for people living with dementia, having access to the digital technology is an accessibility tool. Yes. It's like in this article, they were making a connection between this walking, using a cane or using a wheelchair is an accessibility tool. Having a digital platform is an accessibility tool for mental health and social connection. And we know, this is me kind of going into my brain health, kind of science talk, but we know that, in 2020, Gail Livingston and a series of other researchers from across the world connected together to write a Lancet Commission report on modifiable risk factors for dementia. We know that 40% that we can impact and affect dementia over the course of our life by 40%. And 10% of that, or 25% of that total, comes from physical activity, social connection, and depression. Right? And this is where dance, creative engagement comes into play. Right? So this is something that's totally in our grasp. We can affect this at any point in our life. So there's something powerful about that, that we can do something about our brain health. But also, when we think about, people who are living with dementia, this is a way that we can ensure that that their brain health is also being maintained.
have a
Right?
quality of
So
life that means something. Just because
yeah.
they are living with dementia, whatever form it is, that doesn't mean they have stopped living. We have a spreadsheet where when we had our early stage group, when we were able to be on site, we asked people what was the 12 things they would tell others, and one of it was continue to treat me with dignity and respect. If you respected me before my diagnosis, respect me through the stages of my diagnosis. That was wonderful. And similar to what you said, what I'm remembering is that Alzheimer's is not who they are. Treat them as the person and not as the disease. And that to me is one of the things that you're talking about, and what Chris talks about, what we're all talking about is and intergenerational stuff, bringing little people into the space to dance and sing and to be with, and not just take people out of
not to silo. Let's not silo ourselves based on arbitrary age delineations.
Yes. Because it doesn't work anyway, and it wasn't meant to be. Little people love when they come in. There's a daycare center up the street, and they come in Halloween. We all dress up and they dance and they create so much joy. And then you see, just like in the video where the ballerina, there's a moment that she looks up, and you can see her entire eyes because she's looking up. There's the swan is doing, looking up, and all of a sudden you can see her eyes, and she is alive. She is not the image of the chair combined to the chair combined, and you can tell. And I think the other thing that initiated this beautiful act was the kiss with her hand.
Yes. Oh yes, Maria Gonzalez. I mean, I really love that video, and I guess what I would like for us to remember is that is not unique. I mean, yes, that's a beautiful, beautiful video, but it's not unique. It's not a one-time situation. And yes, it's spectacular because she's a beautiful dancer. And she's she's passed.
She has passed.
But we can talk to her, and she still is dancing in heaven. And but yes, she is exquisite because she's a ballet dancer. But all of us have this. And I love that you mentioned the intergenerational point, because our creativity is something that is with us from the time we were born till the time that we leave this earth. We have access and ability to support our health, our brain health, as individuals and as societies from the time we were born. And we actually have a certain responsibility, I think, in ensuring that for what we do now is going to be, impact us when we get older, and it's going to also support those who are coming after us. Like there's a relationality here, and that is really important. And there's so much more to be done.
Well, and there is, and this is something that I wanted to ask you before, because we're running out of time. But what do you, when you're, if you close your eyes and you open your eyes, and all of a sudden the money wasn't an issue, because money is always the issue, where we fund, how we fund programs and all of that. But if we'll take money out of the equation, what would be a healthy aging community from your perspective? What would that community look like?
Well, that's a really great question. I mean, I think that would be a community where we don't have walls and doors that silo people. It would be a community where everybody who wants to engage and explore their creativity has access to it. Not everybody wants to dance, and they shouldn't have to. Not everybody likes to paint, and they shouldn't have to. But if they should know that it's available. They should have opportunity to explore it across their life. That's individually and with others. And I would wish that we as a society, start to think about care as a different thing, something that we are always doing, that we are interconnected, that we depend on one another, and that none of us got here alone, that we all got here because of other people who supported us, who have faith in us, who shared their experience, and we have a responsibility to do that for others. And so this idea of a web and that interconnectedness is something that I think I see it moving. I see there's a shift in our society already. We're thinking about this, and there's wonderful people who are speaking it and broadcasting it, getting on soapboxes. But it needs to happen in large arenas, and it needs to happen on our corner, on our street corner, in our homes. We need to start thinking about that. We are a social species. We need one another.
Yes, we do.
And creativity is a beautiful way for us to tap into that care. You know, it's a beautiful equalizer. It breaks down hierarchies. It allows us to see one another as people.
Yes. Yeah.
And it allows us to see all of the different aspects of our identity and be able to champion them and make new connections.
Yes.
And, you know, novelty, that kind of enrichment and novelty is so good for our brains. It makes us buzz.
It does, doesn't it?
It really,
Oh
it actually does. I mean, not only does it feels good, right? But it actually does things chemically in our brain too.
Does. Oh my gosh.
Right? So it's,
you know what you're
on,
saying. Oh my gosh. I'm like, because you're right. I remember the first time that I left this country, meaning left the United States and went somewhere else. And I came out of it with such, I mean, I was so, I can't even find the words to express it, but I came back like high. I was like, oh my gosh, what is that about? And it was about exactly what you're talking about, that human connection where I didn't understand the language at all. So I had to figure out a way to communicate with people, to ensure that I wasn't bringing my American sensibilities into a situation. And that's not bad. It's just that I wasn't in America. So I'm in somebody else's home. And so I wanted to be a good guest. And so how do you do that? And how do you do that in a way? And music was it. Because I love to dance. And so the minute we started dancing, like block party style, eating and everything, all of a sudden we were communicating in a way, and it was interesting to me. I began to understand their language. Because what happens then is that you're not so focused on it. You're focused on the story and the situation that you're creating together. So all of a sudden, I may not know that you're saying cup, but because you went and got it and now you're talking, I know you're talking about the cup and what's in the cup. And so the reality is we are too stuck on all the things that we say we have to have. I'm not saying don't learn another language. Of course, learn another language, learn something. I think everybody should learn. But at the end of the day, don't let that prevent you from going somewhere or being in an environment with other people, because this language right here.
We have so many ways of speaking, right? We have so many ways of communicating, and we communicate through movement. We communicate through expression. We do communicate verbally through stories and words.
Yes.
But we tell stories with our bodies, with our expressions, with our relationships, with song, with painting.
Yes.
Let's embrace the wealth of that. Yes. You know, that's what storytelling in action is all about. And it's
so I want you
it's
to
what all of us it's something that all of us tap into every day.
And I want you to tell them how to contact you for storytelling in action. I think I just had a brainstorm. I don't know why this is happening to me with you this morning. I'm just like, but the idea that I'm having, my dear, wonderful Life is a Sacred Journey listeners, viewers, wherever you may be in the world, is storytelling in action is an opportunity to whatever community you're in doing ministry. If you're a deaconess, if you're a leader, a social justice leader, if you're, my friend Marlon Hall does this too. He's an anthropologist. He tells the stories and he weaves them together. Create spaces where people can safely tell their stories, wherever they may be. But don't always make it narrative. Thank you so much, Magda, for telling. Create a space where people can bring their story however they want.
Yeah.
And be in that space for an hour, hour and a half, and have no expectations. See, this is what kills us. We're so agenderized when we go in to something because we have an outcome, we have a goal, we're here to hit it. Let the moment happen with another human being. You know, I remember the first time I did salsa dancing with a total stranger, and I can be rigid when I don't. It's like, oh, wait, you just touched me. Oh, and it wasn't until like the third time when I realized, no, he has to touch you here to help you, and I started getting into it, and then all of a sudden one day I was doing the salsa.
Yeah.
Right? And or taking the hands of a little child and having them lead you through a dance. Yeah, you know, I love children because they do everything with abandonment. You know, they're like, let's just get crazy with it. Dance.
We all have the ability to tap into that, though. We all do. We just need the permission to do it.
So Magda and I are giving you permission this morning to live your best life. Somebody asked me, what are the 4 words that you would put together in order for you to live your best life? And I had to write, mind your own business. Be in your space, do your thing. And when you don't want to mind your business, make it be because you're promoting a change somewhere. Not because you're going in with a critical eye. Just because you see somebody dancing down the street, you're like, oh, they're crazy. Why are they dancing down the street? Maybe they just got a wonderful call that they're going to be a grandparent, or that somebody called and told them, I love you, and they're dancing in that moment. What if we all came outside and just did a little movement tomorrow morning?
Dancing in the streets.
Dancing in the streets. Okay, it doesn't just have to be. Yes, we don't have to just do it for the pride parades, and let's have a life parade where our LGBTQIA brothers and sisters are dancing with us, our transgender beautiful, and our brown and black and all hues of people are out dancing. There's all kinds of music just jumbled up together, and we're just moving with the movement of love. What if we did that across the world? Pick the date, pick the time, right? Across the world. And what if we did that? What would the world look like? You're
speaking my language, my friend.
What would the world look like the second that we stopped moving? And we looked across and saw, just like I'm looking at this beautiful, beautiful new friend that I have. We're 3,500 miles away. This is the first time I've laid eyes on her in person, but yet I resonate with her. I feel, I'm even 30-something years older than her. Get this, people, get this. But our spirits are aligned.
Yeah.
Our ministry is the same on the planet. You're not alone. This is what I'm trying to tell you. You're not alone. So Magda, Kaczmarska, we're getting a whole bunch of hearts on here today. Thank you, my friends. Thank you. Would you please write in the chat, my friends, thank Magda for her work. Thank her for everything that she has done. Thank her grandmother for planting incredible seeds in her ancestral love, because she's still with you. Magda, how do we contact you if we want to bring storytelling and action into our programs, into our faith communities? Because we can learn a lot from you and Chris, and no matter what setting we are in, nonprofit, all of it. Tell us how to get a hold of you.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you all for the hearts. I can't see them, but
there's a bunch of hearts.
Them.
Hearts and hearts and hearts.
So two ways. One, the phone number 929-333-6936. We have an email as well. So that's info@magdakaczmarska.com. And that's a mouthful, I know. And we look forward to hearing from you.
Well, it'll be great. And you know what? We will have you back. And, maybe what we'll do is a storytelling in action blog where we'll get up and dance, all of us together. And we'll figure out a way to, it will be fun. We'll have a party. And
oh my gosh,
we'll have storytelling in action lead us through. So
I would love that, Michelle.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Oh my God, it's such a huge hug to you.
Oh, I have a hug for you too. So you know what, guys? This is what love looks like when it shows up. This is what love looks like when you don't care what somebody is and how they how they live their lives, and you don't care. You just are authentic and you meet people where they are. When you don't have judgment and you just love for the sake of loving, this is what it looks like. It's excited. It talks over itself. It explodes with enthusiasm, and it explodes with an understanding that we're all in this together. And so, Chris Bravo, thank you for introducing me to your good friend, and now she is my good friend, and I am blessed and honored. So, Magda Kaczmarska, thank you so much for taking time out of your morning to be a part of Life is a Sacred Journey. Thank you so much for living out your purpose and doing what you know you were created for. Because of that, you are making a tremendous difference, and you have made a tremendous difference in my life over this last week and definitely this morning. So thank you so much for joining us on Life is a Sacred Journey.
Michelle, thank you. My heart is so full right now. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, all of you out there, have a great weekend. Drink plenty of water. Get the electrolytes filled, because this weather is bad. There you go. It's hot. The air is bad. So please close your windows. If you have an air purifier, turn it on now. I know PG&E is going to be a little expensive, but it's actually cheaper in the day. Take care of yourself. Love yourself, because if you do not love yourself, you cannot love somebody else.
Amen.
I'm just saying. Give yourself a big hug. Take a deep breath and know that life is wonderful, because this woman is in it. I'm in it. But more importantly, you are in it. All right? So have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next Friday morning at 8 o'clock right here at Life is a Sacred Journey.